Well, hello everybody. We're right at the top of the hour. Time to start today's webinar. I'm very excited about today's webinar. Sean Duncan will be presenting about defining success for you and your team and your clients, which I am extremely excited about listening to today. I got a sneak peek at the slides, so I got to see what it's all about and excited. Sean's going to be driving the deck today because he will be doing most of the talking. So I'm going to ask him to advance a couple slides. So one slide right now, Sean. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll let you talk in a minute.
Don't worry. I talk too much as it is.
All right. So this is about the fifth in our series of Bridging the Gap preview series for webinars. Bridging the Gap's our conference, which is coming up 3 weeks from today, July 22nd in Rosemont, Illinois. Sean will be speaking at that as well, and I'll tell you about his session in a minute. If anybody is interested in joining us in Rosemont, which is outside of Chicago, O'Hare, 5 minutes from O'Hare Airport, there's a QR code there. If you want to scan that, you'll go to the website. The website is btgconference.com. Easy to find as well. You see that at the bottom. But for more information, you can go there. Sean, next one, please. I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors. Without our sponsors, this conference wouldn't be possible. And our diamond sponsor, which is FreshBooks. Exciting to have them there. Again, 3 weeks from today will be the start date. So FreshBooks, our diamond sponsor. And one more, Sean. Platinum Plus sponsor is RateWorks. Excited to have them out there as well, doing awesome things. And anybody I mentioned here, please feel free to go search them on the internet and see what they're all about. And one more slide, Sean. And then our other Platinum sponsor is Intuit. We have many additional sponsors, which you'll be hearing about at the conference or online. These are our three big sponsors, I guess is the way to say it, our diamond and our 2 platinum, and we're very grateful that they're part of this group. One more, Sean, and then it'll be your turn. Okay, so this session today that Sean will be doing, which again, I get goosebumps just thinking about what we're going to learn today, is available for CPE. You need to stay, you know the drill, but I'm going to tell you anyways, you need to be. That's not really a correct sentence.
This is not an English test, don't worry.
We're not testing your English. All right. You need to stay logged in for at least 50 minutes, which CVent, this is our platform, will let us know if you were in for 50 minutes. And you need to answer at least 3 of the 4. I think there's 4 polling questions. Is that correct, Sean?
Correct.
Okay. You need to answer at least 3 of those 4 polling questions to get your certificate, which will be emailed to the email address you registered with. I always caution, just make sure you check your spam or junk folders if you don't see it come through, because it should come through pretty quick. The slides are actually currently available in the resources tab and will be emailed with your certificate as well. And this recording will be on the Trimerit YouTube channel later today. We get it up there pretty quick. So once you see it today and you see Sean knock it out of the ballpark and you want to go tell all your friends about it, they can be directed over to the YouTube channel and they can see this there as well. And I will be monitoring the Q&A, so if there are any questions, please put it on there. I will just rudely interrupt Sean sometime during the presentations to yell out, we have questions coming in, and we will address those as we go. And with that being said, I think the next slide is Sean's bio. So Sean, I'm going to hand over to you. Before I do that, though, you are speaking at the conference. I don't remember if it's the 23rd or the 24th. One of those, I'm pretty sure it's not 22nd, but I think it was the 2nd day, and it'll be on imposter syndrome.
Yes.
In the profession, which will be, I'm, again, very excited to hear that as well. So Sean, stage is yours. Thank you for being here. Really excited to hear this, and we're all going to enjoy this presentation.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. So yes, my name is Sean Duncan. You can see my goofy face up there as well. We're going to do a whole bunch of share screen stuff. I'm the founder of SMD Consulting and Accounting, which is a CPA firm. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, but also the Chief Proactive Advisor program. And it's largely I created to help CPAs transition from compliance work to advisory work. There's a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of mystery. I have an entire curriculum around that. We're not covering all of that today or anything like that, but I want to let you know And then Helping Hand RIA, I'm out for securities license. We have built an entire firm focused on how do we help clients with all of their money related issues. So both how they make the money, which is SMD Consulting and Accounting, and business and tax and advisory services, but then how they use the money. So we're really wrapping our arms around helping people with all of their issues. And I could always answer questions on how they work together, why we did it, the transition. There's lots of stories. But speaking of stories, everything I do started with the FBI. So let's explain that. One, no, I wasn't in jail that I know of. Or at least I don't want to talk about it anymore. But when I was back in college, I'm the first kid in my family to get a college degree. So let's just explain that. The only reason I am an accountant, the only reason is I was going to go into the FBI. I wanted to be a special agent. I wanted to chase bad guys. I wanted to be part of the hostage rescue team and kick in doors and jump out of helicopters because I'm a crazy, goofy meathead. And the easiest 3 ways to get into the FBI are having a law, a language, or an accounting degree. So I was in an accounting class when I found this out and went, sure, why not? That's it. Next thing you know, I have a master's degree in accounting and my GPA is going crazy. And I mean, I shot with a 40. I did Kung Fu. I'm not making that up. I worked out like a maniac. I didn't get tattoos back then. I did everything I could to be the best possible candidate. So fast forward, 2003, 9/11 had happened a couple years ago. The FBI is in this big hiring spree. I am in the final interview stages. The Dallas coordinator tells me, Sean, you're my best candidate. Just go through the motions. You'll be in Quantico by the end of the year. So if you imagine everything you as a college kid created for yourself and pursued through a master's degree. I worked in corporate accounting and public accounting just to build a resume for this. And I turned to my wife and said, holy cow, we've done this. Like, this is really going to happen. And so I'm excited, of course, but then I said, now you understand, sweetheart, I'm going to take a pay cut because government gigs, they don't pay so hot. And I then pointed out to her in 2003, she's an IT person, that getting IT jobs was difficult and they're going to move us somewhere. They never let you move where your family is. They always move your first assignment away from all distractions. So now my wife's going to have to get a new job. So financially, we're probably going to struggle for a while as we're getting ourselves rolling and such. And she is super cool. And she's like, look, I know what I signed up for. This is my jam. I got it. We can do this. So of course, she's awesome. But then I asked the next question. I said, now we're still planning on starting a family in a few years. Is that correct? She said, yeah, absolutely. But let's get our feet underneath us first. And I said, well, how is that going to really work? I mean, if I'm a special agent and I make hostage rescue team at some point, I'm going to be gone a lot. I mean, this is the type of thing where I'm in San Diego and I break an ankle on a training exercise and she lives in Fargo or something. How does that work? Because my wife is much smarter than I am, she looked at me a real long time and said, you know, I understand what your real question is. You have to decide. And in that moment, it hit me like a wave. I wanted to be a husband and father more than I wanted to chase bad guys. And the reason I'm telling you this story, there's more to it, but the reason I'm telling you this story, success is defined differently for everyone. I thought success was, I'm going to be an agent, I'm going to chase bad guys. And here I am on the cusp of doing this, realizing that wasn't my definition of success. My definition of success centered around being the best husband and father I could be. And being an absentee parent and husband doesn't do that. And so I turned him down. 2003, I'm 30 years old. I have a master's degree in accounting that I honestly don't want. And now what? What do I do? So I have no shame in admitting, and I know Randy would relate to this, I was lost, depressed, freaked out. Because I don't know, do I go back to school and get a different degree? Do I do this accounting thing? Because you guys know, you know what it means to be in public accounting in 2003. You talk about mired in tradition, which we're going to talk about. I didn't want to be one of those accountants. And I struggled with what the heck I wanted to do for myself. And it dawned on me that the reason the FBI was a calling for me, not just a job, a calling, was it matters. The job matters. When I look back on my life, so when I'm 140 years old and I'm laying on my deathbed, because I'm going to be part robot, I want to look back and say, the stuff I did actually helped. It actually helped people. It made a difference. Because if I look back and say, look at how many tax returns I filed, I'm not going to be fulfilled. And the reason that was important is that's what the impetus was to start my own firm. SMD Consulting and Accounting is my firm. 2006, I finally left my job and said, I'm going to do this firm the way I want to do accounting, which is consulting and accounting. I always wanted to be that guy that helps with people succeeding in their own lives. And we all know tons of stuff as accountants. How do we take this information we have and go help other people? Which I'm going to tell you is maddeningly fulfilling. Well, fast forward. I believed that this was a reasonable concept. Now, again, 2006, I'm essentially doing advisory services. And I'm going to tell you, no one is talking about advisory services in the definitions, because I know you guys are kind of beaten down with the word advisory at this point, but it's not going away. But I knew in 06 that there had to be a need, that people needed help. Holy cow, I was correct. So I'm going to click to a different screen here because I want to talk a little bit more about this. You can start to see I'm growing. I am successful. I am killing it by every metric you can think of. By 2017, my dream, by the way, was to have me and a couple of employees. That'd be kind of neat. By 2017, I'm the largest firm in town. Now, if you guys ever get bored, go Google Frisco, Texas, and find out a little bit about it. You'll find that in 2020, it was Money Magazine's #1 city in the United States to live. It's been the fastest growing city in the United States a couple times in the last 10 years. It's where the Dallas Cowboy headquarters is. The PGA just moved their headquarters. They're putting a Universal Studios between those two headquarters on the same stinking highway, which traffic is not going to be fun. This place is bonkers. And I was the largest firm in town. And I say was because that's another big point. I'm killing it. I'm making tons of money. We're growing. We're tearing out walls. But then there was this one day, this one very clear day that it changed my life again. I'm sitting there working in my office, corner office, looking outside. It's 80 degrees outside and gorgeous and sunny. And in Texas, it's 80 degrees like 3 times a year. Otherwise, it's 111 or it's icy and weird. So I'm about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm pounding out tax returns. I'm making money, man. I'm printing money. They're flying. And then my phone buzzes and it's my wife texting me. And what she's texting me are pictures of her and the kids at Six Flags. Because you see, it's Sunday afternoon and 80 and beautiful at 2 in the afternoon. I wasn't with the kids I did have. And I turned down the freaking FBI for kids I didn't yet have. Because this is what traditional public accounting will do to us. It's, that's the job. You got to give it up. You got to do what you got to do. And so I actually made a huge shift. And that's what this big shift is. In 2017, middle of the year, when I'm talking about growth, I was projecting to add a minimum of 300 more clients by the end of the year, potentially 500 new clients. So the opportunities were there, but that, well, it just meant more work, more grinding, more work, more grinding, more employees, just the same machine. And I finally said, enough's enough. I'm going to double back down on the thing that we're known for. We were famous for advice, and I was turning into every other stinking firm. So again, success. On paper, I was successful. I was making money. I was growing. I was hiring people. I was getting recognized all over the place because of how good we were as a CPA firm, but I wasn't successful because I no longer was with the kids that I have. I wasn't doing the things I wanted to do. I was now filling out more tax returns and answering questions. And so I fired all the tax returns. In 30 days, I fired 2/3 of my revenue and said, no, I'm gonna do advice. Now, we offer it through affiliations. I send a bajillion referrals to other CPA firms that want to just do tax prep. We act as a tip of the spear as advisors. We do only advisory services. Now, what does that mean for us? This is what you're seeing on the screen here. And I'll get faster. I want to explain my story because I feel it drives a lot of this because it'll help you deciding what you need. Now we have greater profitability. Back in 2017, an average client was worth $800 a year because it was a tax return. Our average client now exceeds $15,000 a year. So we don't need as many. I have more time with my family. I take every spring break as a vacation. Every spring break, period. I just got back from a month in Egypt and Greece because, well, I can, and I'm not worried about it. And our clients aren't suffering because I'm gone. I have more time with my family, my employees. Now, if you're worried about keeping and attracting and retaining employees, oh my gosh, give them the work that actually matters as opposed to just sitting there chewing them up for 80 hours a week. That will change their perspective. They become superheroes inside your own firm. I have a ton of great people that are happier than the previous employees were, and the previous employers made the same amount of money, sometimes more, but they weren't fulfilled. And then we're helping clients. And then here's where I really like to do this. And this is why I'm on screen and I do this and I speak at conferences. I want to help you. Way too many of us are freaking miserable because of the way we do things, and I want to change that. So that was my background. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much, but I really wanted to anchor in some perspective because that will drive a lot of the next things coming up. But speaking of next thing coming up, let's do a poll question. If you're sitting there looking at yourself today, do you feel like your firm fulfills you, your team, and your clients the way that you had hoped it would be? So let's see what happens with the poll. Here you go. CPE time, everybody. Okay, we're waiting on about 15,000 people, so get those things clicked in there. Now, of course, if you're killing it, man, I would love to hear what you're doing that's making it happen. If you're on track, if you're off track, there is no wrong answer, especially now that I'm seeing the way some of the answers are getting skewed and the profession is killing you. That is normal, and that is what we're here to start talking about. There's no silver bullet. It's why I created an entire curriculum around it. So don't worry. It's a process, but it can be solved. This is the reason we're here to start this conversation. So thank you for your honesty, guys. I do appreciate it. We're going to give it about, say, 10 more seconds, and then we'll close out the poll. 5, 4, what's next? Oh, yeah, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's rock and roll. So thank you guys. Okay, that's a fairly normal thing. It's a mix of people that are on track, people that are like, I can't do this too much more. Please don't give up and burn out yet, because I know how hard it is. But this is why we're having a problem. Tradition. Same as last year. Sally is killing us. This is the way we've always done it. We always just, if you're working less than 80 hours, by golly, you're lazy. That was what I was told. When I was working for someone else, I was told that if I'm working less than 80 hours, I'm being lazy. And I carried that into my own firm initially until I realized that's a flawed thought process. Our profession is getting commoditized, guys. There's so many conversations. I have an entire presentation talking about AI and the threats and what it means to our industry and how we have to adapt. We're unappreciated too often. Think of how much stuff you know that you can help people with. There is no reason we should be unappreciated. We should be at the center of many of the people's financial decisions. And yet the AI CPA has done an amazing job teaching everybody that we're great at filling out forms. Let's break that. Let's start explaining. And by the way, write this down and start charging for it. Please don't give this stuff away. Now, if you don't know how to charge for it in pricing, ask me questions later. See me at Bridging the Gap. I love asking all kinds of Q&A. I've screwed it up a million times. So if I can save you from screwing it up the way I screwed things up when I was experimenting, because again, no one was doing it when I was creating it. So I had to mess up. I'd love to share anything with you, but the tradition is holding us back on how this industry works. So where do we begin? Now, if there is one thing I want you to take away from today, it's actually this: the work on the business day. The work on the business day. If I have one key to my success, this bad boy's it. So ready? Oh, I tricked you. There's a poll question. So poll question. When was the last time you stopped for 4 or more hours to examine how your business operates? When did you actually stop to be the owner of your business? Or if you're an employee, by the way, if you're an employee, you're not exempt from this. When did you stop and really say, I'm going to take control of my career. I'm going to make decisions. I'm going to plan. Is this a regular part of your routine? Or is this something you're like, Sean, brother, I am working too much. I ain't got time for any of this stuff. Nobody taught me how to do this. I'm going to teach you some tricks. So this is awesome. Okay, part of your regular routine. Good for you guys that are doing this. The work on the business day, the concept, I will give all the credit in the world to Michael Gerber and the E-Myth. If you've never read the E-Myth Revisited or the E-Myth for Accountants, which Michael Gerber did with Darren Root, who of RightWorks. My buddy Darren, brilliant dude. He's got all kinds of great ideas, and even though the book is old, there's a lot of great info. So I definitely recommend it to give you some concepts to build on stuff that we're going to talk about today, to build on curriculum if you're interested in Chief Proactive Advisor, to build on Bridging the New Gap. There's a lot of different resources. Awesome. Okay, we'll give it about 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8. I know I'm counting kind of fast, but we'll go with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's close that poll out. Let's keep it rolling. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast, guys. I'm trying to get a lot of information to you as quickly as I can. All right, so what is the work on the business day? Is dedicated time for you to be the owner of your business and your career instead of doing order taking. Even as an owner, we have a bad habit of just sitting here like, well, there's an email, better answer it. Well, there's an email. Oh, my employee asked a question. And we don't stop and really make strategic decisions. Think of how many times you said, I gotta get around to that. I need to look at that software. I need to really look at these conferences and decide if I need to go. I need to make the time for blah. Look, we all do it. And it is very easy to be busy. Busy does not equate to success and fulfillment and growth and opportunity. Busy is just busy. And there's a ton of books out there on this, but this is my key. So here are your rules of the work on the business day. Rule number 1, no less than quarterly do you have a meeting with yourself, and no less than 4 hours at a time. Now, right away, I'm sure some of you guys are going, all right, Sean, look, I don't have time to sit there and just waste half of a day. Honestly, I'd prefer you waste the whole day. And it's not a waste. It's the most important days of your year, actually. In fact, my most fulfilling days of my year are often my work on the business days because I move the ball forward so much in that time because I'm focused. Now, think of it this way. When you're trying to tell yourself, no, I don't have time for that, forget it, Sean, I'm ignoring the rest of it. Hold on. If your single largest revenue client, no, let's just profit, let's be more specific. Your most profitable client calls you and says, I need you next Monday. I need you to clear your calendar. I'll pay you for it, whatever, but I need you to help me. I have a lot of decisions to make. I need an 8-hour meeting. Let's book the conference room. You're going to take the meeting because that's your biggest client. They're the single biggest profit center. They're the biggest revenue. They determine so much of the success of your company. Now, when you really think about it, who is the one individual that has the most influence and power on your success? Besides my wife, but besides that, you are actually your single most important client, but yet we keep ignoring ourselves as a client. The advice you would give to someone else, you don't ever take the time to give to yourself. That's what the work on the business day is about. And so what I want you to do is clear the schedule. You will never regret it. I promise you. If we show up to a conference and you see me there and you took work on the business days and you regret wasting the time, punch me in the gut. I'm that confident that I'm not going to get punched. And if I do, well, then we'll talk about how we can fix that. But I'm serious. This is that powerful. Now, location is key. I do not want you at home where kids and spouses can interrupt you. I do not want you at the office where somebody can peek in with, hey, I got a quick question. No interruptions. This is you focusing on you. I usually go to a coffee shop. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive because of the noises, but it's background noise. I can just sit there and lock it in and focus. You are not allowed, listen please, you're not allowed to take emails or phone calls. They can wait. Because remember, if you were in that meeting with your biggest client, you weren't going to sit there and text while they're talking to you or while you're working on something. You're going to focus. The emails can wait. There is nothing that can't wait 4 hours in our world. Look, there's accounting emergencies, but nobody's going to die. And hopefully you have employees that can help support you. But if you put an out of office saying, hey, I'm in a meeting for the next 8 hours, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Clients understand it. I know we make excuses on how they won't. They will. When you have these meetings with yourself, be bold. This is when you make your crazy decisions. I think I'm going to raise my prices. I think I'm going to fire 2/3 of my revenue on my tax returns. I think I am going to buy that software or get that training. Or Mark and I, who helps run the background, Mark, you're doing a great job. We were just talking about how he wants to go live somewhere for a month and try complete remote work, because why not? What really are the consequences, right? So you oops and make a mistake. Look, we're going to make mistakes anyways. Be bold. This is your life. I want you to make decisions that fulfill you and make you happy. It's why I gave you about my background. When I turned down the FBI, I didn't do that in 3 minutes. I sat down, I stewed on it. I made pro-con lists. I thought it through. I prayed, I slept, I meditated, I did everything. That's what a work on the business day is. When I fired all my tax returns, yeah, I fired them in 30 days, but I took time to think this through and what the process is going to be. When I make my big, bold decisions, that's what these times are for. I do them at least monthly, but that's sometimes harder for business owners when you're actually revenue generating. I'm no longer revenue generating. I have teams for that. Don't get overwhelmed. It is very easy to sit there and go, I got to make the most of this. Do what you can. Any success is success. That's all I want you to do, is make that time for it. Enjoy it. You're going to find that this is going to be stuff that's going to both wear you out and energize you at the same time. It's the weirdest dynamic whatsoever. So give it a shot. So I'm going to give you an actual thing to do as a bonus prize while you're at your work on the business day. You ready? I call this the love-hate list. Get your pen out. Here we go. By the way, there is an attached workbook in your resources. So I have a little cheat sheet for this if you want to use that instead of just writing it up yourself. And there'll be some other things in the workbook as well. The love-hate list. What I want you to do is down the left-hand side on that list, you're going to make a list of every single task you have to perform at your work. Everything. If you're the one that has to clean the dang dishes because nobody will do it, write it down. Then I want you at the top, there's 4 columns. I love this, I hate this. I'm good at this, I'm bad at this. Check 2 boxes to every single thing. You either love it or hate it, and you're either good at it or bad at it. Boom, 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 boom. You're good on the list. Next, I want you to highlight every single item you hate and are bad at. Do you know what you have now? That list of everything that you hate and are bad at is the job description for your next hire. See, we have this bad habit of saying, well, I need to hire a tax preparer. I need to hire a bookkeeper. Maybe what you need is an assistant. Maybe what you need is a marketing person. Maybe you need a janitor because nobody's cleaning up the dishes. I don't know. But what I want you to do is stop and think, if I can get rid of the stuff you hate and the stuff that you're bad at, because you hate it, you're going to procrastinate. If you're bad at it, you're bad at it. Believe it or not, there are people out there that actually enjoy doing the stuff you don't want to do. Have you been before? Did you know there's people that don't like it? Exactly. If you are focused, you love doing accounting and revenue generating and doing the work, the more admin stuff that you take off your plate, the more focused you're going to be on generating revenue. If you want to be more CEO-like, which is what my role is, I don't do any client work. I got rid of the client work so that I can focus on building a company and a team, because that's where I'm fulfilled. You hear the word fulfilled? That's it. We're going to constantly, over the course of your career, your business, you're going to keep moving up the love-hate list to where eventually you're only working on the things you love or and are good at. Think about what your world would be like if you were only working on stuff that you loved and you were good at. I am intentionally pausing to let you have a moment to think about that, because that's what drives this whole thing. That's what you're focusing on in the work on the business day. So if you ignore everything else in the rest of this session, or halfway through, please don't ignore the love-hate list and the work on the business day. It will change your life. I promise you. I've done entire webinars just on work on the business day and techniques and tricks and tips. And those are the ones that frequently get some of the best feedback when people stop me in the hallways at conferences. So part of what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you actionable items. Instead of talking concepts about success, just like giving you tips on the work on the business day, I wanted to give you some techniques I've used to create a real business plan for your version of success. And the important word is your version of success, not mine. You may hate everything that I do. Awesome. That means you're better at other things than I am, and that's what I want you focusing on. First, poll question. Have you ever done a written business plan before? Because we're about to talk about creating a real business plan. Have you ever done one of these things before? So there's a lot of different ones that are out there. Again, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It really helps me see your answers to give me guidance on what I want to talk about in the next part and what I focus on. Okay, awesome. Keep them coming, guys. I'm going to chug some water because I talk a lot. And by the way, please don't forget the Q&A. If there's something you want me to flesh out and follow up on more in more detail, Randy will interrupt me. I love questions. I want to make sure that this is a useful and valuable session for you. Okay, this is the very normal bell curve. I'm seeing this. This is pretty typical. A lot of you guys have thought it through. You got a plan and it's in your head, but the actionable steps may not be in place. That's what we're going to do it. Awesome. All right, we're going to give about another 10 seconds and then we'll close out the polls. Thank you guys for getting on this so quick. Perfect, perfect. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's wrap that one up and move on. Okay, here's what we are not talking about. And actually, interestingly enough, you guys didn't do the typical off-the-shelf business plan. This, when somebody says business plan, this is what they're usually talking about. Got to do my executive summary, and then I got to describe my company and my product and service offerings and blah, 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 blah. Look, this is great if you're doing a public offering. If you've got to do your due diligence, somebody has to do their due diligence because you're dealing with a Reg D level investment and you have to do stuff. But the thing is, even the VCs that come in and look at somebody's business plan, I'm going to tell you what they look at. They read the executive summary because it's one page. It gives them the high points. They skip everything and they go back to the financial projections to see if it's a viable business. Then they decide if they even want to read anymore. So all this time, if you do the traditional business plan and you write 4 pages of what your company's going to be and your services and descriptions, if all that writing doesn't lead to an action and it's really just a shelf filler, it's like a way a lot of clients approach financial statements. They go, thanks, and they stick it on their shelf. It doesn't do them any good. So we're going to talk about a different version of building a business plan that leads you to decisions instead of just some fluff that sits in a really neat binder. And please don't spend money on this version of it unless you have to do something for a disclosure because you're soliciting investors. And that's a whole different thing where you involve an attorney. So that's not what we're talking about. All right, here's what I want you to do. And all of these items you see on the screen here, these action items, these are in the workbook to give you some cheat sheets and some ideas. First and foremost, I want you to create a bucket list. I want you to create an actual document of everything you want to do in your life, everything you want to go see, every person you want to meet. If you don't know what you want to accomplish in life, how do you know you're going to accomplish it? And I'm just going to point for perspective. I'm going to open my drawer here at my desk. I have this little brown book here. This is my physical living bucket list. I will go in and update it and I will scratch things off. I scratched off, see the pyramids, go to Greece, go to Egypt. I scratched that off just a week or so ago. I add new stuff as I learn through new things in life. I want you obsessing on what's important to you in your life. And I've got a lot of rules about this. We're going to talk about these in a second, but start writing them down. And I'm going to flesh this out a little bit here. I'll go speak at college classes frequently, and I would talk to college kids. And I want you to think about this. If I'm talking to a bunch of 23-year-olds that are working on their master's degree in accounting, and I'll ask them frequently, how many places in the world do you want to travel before you die? Because see, I'm an aggressive traveler. You may have noticed that when I said I took a month vacation, and I've got 2 more vacations coming up this year. So how many places do you want to go in the world? Is it 10, 20, 30? I mean, come on, before you die, how many places? So let's just assume there's 30 places in the world that you want to go to before you die. Everybody agrees that's reasonable. So, okay, how often are you going to take that kind of vacation? Now, first, don't forget, you're all accounting majors. So you're going to go get a job and you're probably going to work like a crazy person for 3 to 5 years because tradition, right? And if you do take a vacation, you're going to go back and see mom and dad, and you maybe go hang out with your friends somewhere, like go to Cancun. But the big trips. You may not have the budget for it or the time, but the big trips, it's probably going to get about 5 years into your career before you can really go after it. So how often will you take that trip? Every year? That's hard to do for a lot of people. Every other year, every 3 years. Let's pretend every other year you're able to take one of those big mamma jamma trips. This year is France, next year is Japan, then it's an African safari, whatever it is. If you have 30 places in the world you want to travel, you go every other year, and you have that 5-year buffer, I just planned 65 years of your life. So now let's flip this back around to the bucket list. If you don't attack this bucket list, you might end up regretting choices you're making. And what happens? If you're working 80 hours a week, you don't have time for it. I want you to obsess on your success. Your bucket list drives your success. Now, also in there, I have a cheat sheet on what's a perfect world look like for you. What does your world, not work, your world look like? Where do you live? Who are you with? How much money do you make? How much do you work? Are you retiring? Are you working like a crazy person so that you don't work at all? You get to define what your world looks like. And there's a series of sample questions and just to jog the memory. But again, why do we do the work on the business day? To clear the time to think about this stuff, because this is hard for us. We accountants are used to checklists and spreadsheets. This is foo-foo stuff where we're supposed to say kumbaya and hug each other. This is hard to do, but if you don't start really thinking about it, what kind of business plan are you going to have if you don't have something you're directing toward? You see, that's the key. I'm helping you define what it is we're working toward. Now you define the perfect businesses. What do you offer? What services are you doing? Are you doing advisory? Are you doing tax? Are you doing books? Are you teaching people how to paint? Because you see, you can do anything in your life. I have been paid in a consulting meeting to give advice on traveling to Disney World because I'm a giant Disney nerd. Let me repeat that. I got paid $750 an hour because I don't do meetings. And if they want to do a meeting, then dang it, they're paying me a lot. 30 minutes of my meeting was talking about Disney World, and that's what the client thanked me for. Not the tax savings, not the business strategy. They're like, oh my gosh, you saved my life. My wife is going to love this. You have all these notes I have about Disney. It's going to change our whole thing. You've saved my life. I didn't save his life, but boy, Disney advice, and I got paid for it. You can give advice on anything, guys. What types of clients? Do you like all of your clients? Do you not? I want you to start building this model. Then when we get there, but before we get to any further, I want you to be very clear. Our pro tip number 1, do not judge yourself. My rule is any goal you have is good unless it hurts other people along the way. If your goal is, I really want 7 Ferraris because I want to name them Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. That doesn't hurt anybody. Go get 7 Ferraris. But think about it. We're accountants. That's an unreasonable expectation. That's not good for me to want. Is that what you want? Look, I have a ridiculously expensive Jeep Wrangler that makes no financial sense whatsoever. But man, I love this thing. Love it. It's a bad financial expenditure, but yet I'm going to have this thing for 15 years, and I love it. Ain't I allowed to love something that I have? And it's not always about things. That's why I take all these trips. But the flip side is I don't want you to set expectations and tether yourself to something you don't want to do. If you don't want to go clean up trash on the side of the road because, well, I'm supposed to volunteer, don't. Do what you want to do. This is your life. Be honest. Be honest with yourself on what you want to actually accomplish in your life. I cannot stress this enough. I volunteer. In fact, actually this Saturday, I'm going to a Make-A-Wish event for a poor kid that's really sick in the hospital. Now, I'm a super nerd, so I'm going to dress up as a stormtrooper with a bunch of other stormtroopers and Darth Vader to show up and give this kid a lightsaber. That's just what I do because I get to have fun, but this kid is a huge Star Wars fan. Win-win, right? I get to be a super nerd. That literally is this Saturday, by the way, what I'm doing. All right, poll question. Have you guys ever done a bucket list before? Because I've found that I think I know how this curve is going to turn out with your answers because it is not typical. A lot of us just kind of tread along the way. So yeah, let's hit this poll question. I am fascinated because I've had different answers on this before, but many people say they've never done. Yeah, there you go. Most people don't do them. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And that's what nobody's ever stopped and said, do this. But I encourage you. It is a really great motivator. In those days where you're like, you know what, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Business plan stuff we're about to talk about, how we can improve your business. But if it has a focus that you really are fulfilled and excited about, it changes your perspective for sure. Okay, we're going to go a little quick on this because I want to make sure we get into the building of the plan time as well, because I've got a lot.
Sean, I do
Yes,
have a
sir.
question. Sorry, I said I would rudely interrupt you. So
Bring it, buddy.
So we had a question come through about if you can give a few examples of things that you do for as advisory service. And I know you've got time for other things,
Sure.
but if you got a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do teach classes on this and some cheat sheets and things, but here's advisory services is anything that you know that your client doesn't know. And at the Bridging the Gap, I'm actually going to give some examples with some pricing and stuff as well. And hey, by the way, tell Intuit, because I've got like 3 or 4 classes on this as well. Okay, shameless plug aside. Advisory services. What entity should they choose? Helping them with making a change to an S Corp. You guys know when an S Corp needs to be done. Are you charging $75, $150 to get that S Corp taken care of? Or are you charging $2,000, $3,000, $4,000? You see, I charge $2,500 to move somebody to an S Corp. Why? Because my advisory services is not filling out a form. My advisory services is knowing when it's time to do it, filling out the form, setting reasonable compensation, updating the books to make sure that they have the appropriate equity, because that can be a big deal. And here's the bigger important part. I know for sure the IRS is going to send confusing letters because they're so behind on it. I tell my client, hey, no extra charge. I'll do that for free. No, you would have done it anyways. Every time a client letter shows up, an IRS letter, you do it for free. Let's get paid on the front end. And then I also charge for value. If I'm switching you to an S Corp and going to save you $10,000 every single year to be an S Corp, $2,500 one-time charge, slam dunk. And then you tell them, anytime you get a letter from the IRS, I'll do that at no additional charge. That's why you've got me. I've been paid to review other people's self-prepared returns. I'll charge $500. And all I do is I review it. I write up an email and say, here's what I see. I don't change the return. I just write up a summary. What about just scheduling quarterly meetings to talk about what's going on? You can get into KPIs. You can talk about success of business. You can talk about cash flow. We have advisory services for people that do their own books. And all we do is my bookkeeper floats in and tells them what they did wrong. Eventually that leads to us pointing out how bad they've screwed it up and we take it over. But the advisory could just be teaching them, training them on how to set up books and teach them how to do journal entries. You can do the advisory services that way. It truly is anything you know that the client doesn't know. And it doesn't even have to be accounting. Like I said, we do wealth management now. Now we do it in a separate RIA for compliance and securities reasons, but we bring those resources in. How many times do you already know what legal entity they need, when they need a C Corp versus an S Corp versus a partnership? You can tell the attorney which documents to draft. You don't need the attorney to charge them a ridiculous amount of money. Sometimes you do. So it truly, just think about all this stuff. Make a list of every possible thing that you could do, and you can start fleshing that out. Now, I will tell you that that's the super short answer of what actually is anywhere between 2 and 4 hours of webinars that I've taught before. So if it feels like I rushed through answers, I did, but hopefully that gives you some ideas. So hopefully that's a big thumbs up. I'm not seeing the Q&A stuff, but thank you for that question. That's the stuff that I want to make sure you guys are getting. All right, let's create a real plan, guys. All right, so you've now picked the 10 most important elements of your perfect world and the perfect business. You've got this list of all these things. I want you to pick 10 of those things that you were saying, man, I'd love to have 1 million clients. Man, I'd love to have that beach house in Hawaii. I don't know. Pick 10 things. And what I want you to do is, at the top of that, that's your goal. But then you're going to say, well, Sean, okay, let's just say, because it'll come up on the next screen, I want a mountain house in Colorado. I want to have a really beautiful cabin in Colorado. Why don't I have that? Because it's expensive. Well, I don't have that money. Why don't you have that money? Well, because my company doesn't make that much money. Why? Well, because we don't have the clients. Why? Because we don't have marketing. Why? And you work backwards. I know this sounds cheesy, and really simple because it's cheesy and really simple. This is what real business planning is. I want to get there. What steps do I have to take to get there? And what you're going to find is there are multiple paths to get there. But the difference is if you don't know where there is, how do you know you're going there? So let me give you an example. I am standing in North Dallas right now. And to the south, there's American Airlines Center where the Dallas Mavericks play. Now, if we're standing next to each other and I say, I'll meet you at the American Airlines Center in 4 hours. Cool. We'll both get there. Now, you can take one highway. I can take another highway. We can walk. We can have a helicopter. We can have a train. We can have a bus. A lot of ways to get there. Now, if I just say, all right, what we're going to do, let's walk south. I'll see you there in 4 hours. Well, we're going, but how do we know we're going to get where we want to go? Because you might end up in Fort Worth because you accidentally didn't go completely south, and I'm at the AAC. If you don't have a destination, you're not going to get there unless it's just pure dang luck. Let's figure out the destination and then the steps to get there. The same way as if I told you I want to meet you somewhere, you're going to figure out, am I going to get in the car? Am I going to have to drive? You would work your way backwards. Well, traffic's going to be bad then, so I might just do an Uber, blah, 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 blah. That's the same thing. Now, I turned this into a video game version, which is the achievement to unlock. So let me go to this next screen and show you my example. So if I want a house in the mountains of Colorado, why don't I have one right now? Well, I need $2 million to get the one that I want. Well, the achievement I need is I need to get $2 million. Well, in order to get that, what achievement do I need? I need to have disposable income to have the $2 million. Well, why don't I have that? Well, I need to then get more net income from the business. Why don't I have that? Well, I need more clients and my fees have to go up and I have to cut my cost. You're going to create this list. Now, don't get mired in too many details. It is way too easy to get buried in minutia. But when you have these 10 different lists, what you're going to find is many of them line up to similar steps. So imagine if I've got 10 different things and I realize 5 of them have the exact same starting point. This is, by the way, where it says I have a decision to make. I need to do something about my marketing. I need to do something about my prices. I need to do something about my location, right? That tells you what's probably the most important decision you now have to make. Because if 5 of my 10 lists start with the same thing, half of my goals are driven by this one starting point. You now have the first step toward your success. And we're not talking about timing. I don't care about, is it 1 year, 6 months, 36 days? I don't care. I mean, you can give yourself goals and timelines. I care about the milestones, the achievements. If you've ever played a video game, because I'm a super nerd. So if I'm playing a video game and I want to level up to something and I want to work through this path in this tree, I could do it in a week. I could do it in a year. You've seen people play games that have gone too fast through stuff and you don't understand. Well, it's because they lived in the video game and that you don't have time for that. You may not have time to do everything you want to accomplish in 6 months. That's fine. That's normal. But you should have 10 decisions that you need to make. You then should have achievements and steps and goals and ideas. And it's very likely that many of these will be the same. So to create your plan, though, here's some more action items. You want to prioritize the decisions you have to make. If 5 of them start at the same point, that's critical, right? You have to decide how fast or slow to do all this. You may not want to be a crazy person like me and fire 2/3 of your revenue so you can devote all your team and resources and energy on building an advisory company, because not everybody can lose 2/3 of their revenue. And I understand that. Do you want to add in a little bit of the advisory stuff? Do you want to not do advisory at all? Do you want to stop doing bookkeeping? I don't know. You may want to shut the whole stinking business down and go completely different. That's fine. Sell it, become a business valuation expert. There is, again, nothing wrong with that. It's whatever your passion is. And I actually say this to my team, and feel free to steal this. There are so many ways to make money in the advisory services space of accounting that I tell my team, they get to tell me what their passion is. And if it makes money and makes sense within our firm, we'll do it. Give you a recent example. One of my employees loves crypto. Despite what's going on, he's an expert in crypto. I'm not, could care less. We can advise on crypto. We will advise on crypto. If he gets to a moment where he doesn't like it anymore, we're not advising on crypto anymore. I'm tying his passion toward our revenue generation. Well, what do you think happens with that, by the way? If your employee is passionate about something, they're going to be a champion. They're probably going to be better at it and be an expert at it. Yeah. There's so many different paths that you can choose. Why don't you just pick the ones you're going to enjoy? Pick the clients you're going to enjoy. Decide how much of this change you're comfortable with. Change is hard. I have a whole entire webinar I've taught on change management and what goes with that and how to optimize that. It is hard. You decide, is it, I want to roll one change out a year or not? And then you start setting timelines. And that's where this says here, pro tip, the Gantt chart. This is a Gantt chart. If you've never heard this term before, this is what it's called. Think of it this way. Why is this important? I have one on my whiteboard right here. I do a whiteboard version of this Gantt chart. If I told you, you have to change your practice management software, change your pricing software, maybe like go get Ignition or Anchor or something like that, your engagement letter software. You've got to change from QuickBooks to Xero. You've got to learn French. And by the way, you have to fire 50% of your clients. And I need you to do all that in 30 days. Completely impossible. This is business planning 101. This is project management 101. You can't do everything at once. You have to do things in milestones and flow. The Gantt chart allows you to take a visualization of, all right, well, I know I can't do all of those. What's the most important? Remember the step? If there's a step that 5 of them are driven by, that thing will take me approximately 3 months to implement. Cool. Do I have to wait till it's completed before I start the next one? Or will I be able to start step 2 like this and have a little bit of overlap? You can start to plan on how it's going to unfold. And then life happens. Anybody heard of COVID? Did that change anybody's business plan? It probably did. You then pivot. But what this does is it gives you a visualization of your overcommitment. Because if you put everything you're trying to work on in this fashion, and suddenly you've got 92 things listed, and this is what I have to do that's urgent in the next 2 months, it explains why you feel overwhelmed. Plan it out. And it is important to be able to say no. You sometimes just have to say no to something. I do coaching. I coach accounting firms. I coach clients. I coach my team. But I have coaches for myself. I'm interviewing a new one, and I know that I'm not going to be able to roll anything out he suggests for at least 6 months because we're in the middle of a massive initiative right now. But that at least allows me to plan and figure out where I'm going to go and be open to the change. It fits into my business plan because I know where I'm going. I know where that person fits. They just may be part of step 5 on my plan right there that you're looking at. So next one. If I said that the work on the business day is the most important, this is probably the second most important. Be flexible. Life changes. Doors will open and close, guys. There will be opportunities that are come and go, and that's just the way life is. I want you to be aware that opportunities are happening. Be wise enough to know which door to walk through and diligent enough to close the doors that don't serve you. Repeat the last one, please. Be diligent enough to close the doors that don't serve you. The way that, of course, being flexible, everybody likes the Mike Tyson version. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. The true version, the actual real quote is from Helmut von Moltke. I'm just going to say it that way because it sounds fancy. No plan of operations can carry with any certainty reach beyond the first encounter with an enemy. Every shot fired, right? You're going to have a plan and you're going to have milestones and steps. When something happens, if you know your destination and a door closes, remember, there are multiple ways to get to the same American Airlines Center. You adjust. But see, if you only have one path and something happens, that's when we freak out. It doesn't mean you're off track. You had to do a pivot. I was moving towards certain types of success, but there is a path where I could still have my team do tax returns to get us to success. I chose a different path and I let other firms do the tax prep so we can focus differently. Both could have resulted in the same destination. I just had to choose a path. That's what you're doing. So if I'm repeating this, you start with your bucket list, you create your perfect day in your perfect world. So we now have a destination that we're working toward, and you pick 10 of your perfect world items and you work backwards and you're looking for patterns. Man, if accountants have a strength and a superpower, it is pattern recognition. Holy shnikes. Look for those patterns. Use those patterns to determine your next step. Questions? I just threw a ton at you. If it felt like I just went through 2 and 3 hours worth of seminars in 1 hour, yeah, I really kind of did. That's why I talked fast. Randy, any questions on there before I pop up the next slide?
No additional questions came through because you are so good at this. Everybody understood it right away.
By the way, this is the website for Chief Proactive Advisors. By the way, CPA. Aha, see how fancy I am with the naming there? Yeah, I know. We call it CPA squared because the goal is to exponentially improve your life and your business. There, how's that for cheesy marketing? Last action item. Go be freaking awesome, y'all. Go be freaking awesome. Do some of this stuff. And do not be shy in emailing me your questions or your successes. Grab me at a conference. I will be at Bridging the Gap. I will be at Intuit Connect. And I feel like there's one more coming up that I'm speaking at, but I'm not quite. Oh, I'll be at Appy Camp if any of you guys will be at Appy Camp with the Appy Hour.
All right. Well, Sean, thank you. I was supposed to be at Appy Camp, but I have another conference that same exact time, so I will not make Appy Camp this year. I want to thank you. The things that you said, I knew I would enjoy tremendously. That one thing with the list of, things you're good at and things you love. Yeah, that is where I live now. And that took me a long time to get to that point. But when you get to that point and you find those things that you love doing and you're good at, if you can live in that intersection, it's unbelievable. And honestly, for about the last 7 years, that's where I've been. I'm 62. I should have done it earlier in my life, but at least I got there. And so I hope everybody can get to that point. And
it's a continuous journey. I mean, I'm 51 and I'm still filtering. I mean, it's just the way it is, but it's part of the process of growing and you'll change your goals and that's fine.
Yep. No, I think that's great. And then just wanted to let everybody know again, I'm sure you love this. And I'm not even going to say if, because I know you did. Send everybody to the YouTube channel later today to take a look at this, because this information Sean just shared was amazing. If you do this, you can have this mythical, which is not mythical, but what people think is this mythical, life-work balance. That's truly define, like Sean said, your own success. So thanks, Sean. Any last words before we wrap up?
No, yeah, I will say you can do this. It takes time. Commit to yourself. You are the single most important person in your business. Treat it that way. Please go be a badass. This is G-rated. Then just go be freaking awesome. Thank you all. Great questions, and I look forward to hearing more from y'all.
Yep, and then one last thing then. This is the type of information you're going to be hearing at Bridging the Gap. So one last plug, go to btgconference.com. 3 weeks from today, starts July 22nd. Actually, a big deadline coming up. July 10th is the last day to get the special pricing on the hotel. So just go out, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your everybody that Sean's going to be there sharing more information. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.